As I pointed out in the previous session, the first time I ever had the concept of union with Christ brought to my attention was in a Wednesday night sermon preached by my pastor, Dr. Lee Robertson. And the name of the sermon was Paul's Holy Repetition. And he challenged us to underline every place where we saw that prepositional phrase. And so I did so over the next year and was amazed just how many times in the New Testament this expression came up in some way. So we can tell how important the concept is by its frequency. Notice how the Apostle Paul says it, how many times. He uses the expression in Christ no less than 38 times. In Christ Jesus, 51 times. In Him, 21 times. In the Lord, 44 times. And so you find these and similar expressions no less than 216 times. Now, he's not repeating this because it is some type of mantra or it's a filler phrase or he just flowery rhetoric. No, he's making a point. In fact, this is one of the reasons, since it's so ubiquitous, it almost, I think, sometimes hides in plain sight. Since it's on almost every page of the New Testament, that somehow we've overlooked it. No, I think that union with Christ is the key to all of Paul's soteriology and theology. So notice how many times the Apostle Paul uses it. But not only by the Apostle Paul, like I said, the phrases are just so ubiquitous. We have a tendency to just gloss over them and miss their true importance. And let me just admit something. I'm a Westerner. I'm from, I'm an American. These terms, they don't translate well to my Western way of thinking. What does he mean? In Him. Just the other day, our two grandchildren were spending the night with us, and at dinner, Grant, who is 5, and Elliot, who is 7, Grant said, "Papa, Elliot and I were talking the other day. What do people mean when they say that God lives inside them?" And Elliot said, "Yeah." He said, "Does this mean that there's, when they say that He's in their heart, does that mean that there's a little bitty man walking around inside their heart?" And I just had to smile. I said, "Well, I can see why you would think that." And you think about it from our perspective, especially, like I said, as a Westerner, as someone who thinks in very concrete categories of the Western mindset. What in the world does he mean? The expressions are abstract and they're very difficult for you and me to understand. But it's the very frequency, not only of Paul, but of John, lets us know how important this expression is. John uses the very same expression in Him no less than 26 times. Abide in Him. He uses not only in Him, but he uses that expression no less than 60 times in his Gospels. He also uses the concept of abiding in Christ. Now, what does it mean to abide in Christ? Well, some think that means to abide in Christ is some type of special state of total surrender that very spiritual Christians experience. And so somebody like Rodmacher presents abiding as remaining in a sweet state of fellowship with the Lord through continued obedience and confession of sin. I don't think so. I don't think he's trying to say that, there's a lot of people who are saved and then there's the really special ones who abide in me. No, I think it's more basic than that. I think he's saying that to abide in Him is to be in Him, is to be saved. And so I think it's more basic. So we find the Apostle Paul and the Apostle John, the frequency in which they present the concept lets us know how important. The concept's centrality should come through to us. Like I said, I already quoted earlier men like John Murray, Millard Erickson, and John Calvin. Let me quote Wayne Grudem, how he points out that every aspect of God's relationship to believers is in some way connected to our relationship with Christ. And so he concludes that the doctrine, every aspect of redemption could be included in this subject of union with Christ. So, all of the blessings of salvation are accomplished in Jesus Christ. So we can see the importance of this concept simply by its frequency and its centrality.